So a few people on Twitter and Reddit have been linking me to this article on the website The Mary Sue talking about the problems with moe anime, and they want to know my opinions on it. Well, the article is pretty innocuous. It pretty much just presents itself as an opinion piece, someone who's made some observations about this thing they heard about called moe, and why they don't really like it. Fair enough. The kind of stuff that's said in this article has been said of moe as a concept for as long as it's been a thing. I've heard this conversation countless times over the years in regards to the subgenre, which has probably been around for 10 years as a popular term in the West. So that part of it is nothing new. But the thing about this article is that it's clearly written by someone who doesn't really have any interest in moe or like involvement in it, who's not a fan of it. And I think you couldn't possibly have a more unhelpful and boring opinion of moe than someone who doesn't actually like it. And this brings me to my problem in general with outsider articles and why I consider it so important to refer to myself as a gonzo journalist. Because for me, it's integral to my writing that I am an otaku. I'm writing about all this stuff from the perspective of someone who gets it more than anyone else would. It's about writing about the personal experience of someone who's as into the culture and into the thing that I'm talking about as possible. Because to me, that's the kind of person who would know the most about it, who would have the most interesting things to say about a subject. It's sort of like being a researcher, you know? You can't really speak about it on like a deep level unless you understand it on a deep level. So anytime someone comes along and just sort of has a passing interest in something like moe, and they try to summarize very quickly what they think it's all about and what they think its effects are and what they think the people who like it are like, then it just speaks as completely untrue to me. It's like, who are you to talk about moe? You don't even know the first thing about it, other than what, like, in this article on the Mary Sue, which is a very short article, you know, it's not like an in-depth diatribe on the nature of moe, it's like a tiny little article that cites one book, the Moe Manifesto, and, you know, like a couple quotes from that book, and then, like, draws some conclusions and moves on. Now, again, it's just an opinion article. It's mostly the author saying that they don't feel comfortable with this whole moe thing as they understand it. But, you know, I would much rather read an article from someone who's, like, in the shit with it and has an opinion on it from there. Because the thing is that I am a huge fan of moe, obviously, and I can completely appreciate all the concerns raised in this article, but speaking personally as a moe fan, none of these things are how I see it. The way that it's being described in this article is just not how I perceive the genre. I don't really see it as this, like, infantilizing thing. I don't see it as this, like, speaking to reality in any way. It is its own thing that has its own purposes, and the people who are into it for their own reasons, which often have little to do with the real world, you know? And I find it, even like the quotes that she quoted from the Moe Manifesto book, even quotes from like people who claim to be experts or something, like a lot of them are, like, generalizing. Like, the one person who says, like, people who are into moe tend to be losers in love. What the fuck does that mean? It's a load of horseshit, you know? I had a girlfriend for a time. I also liked moe at the time. Where are you coming from with this, you know? Like, there's so much more to it than that when these articles come along and try to boil it all down to it's just one thing, they miss the incredibly broad picture going on outside of it. And this is a problem I have with all articles about anime. It's really hard for me to listen to people talk about it unless I know that they know their shit. Because for me, as someone who's in very deep and definitely knows, like, why I care about the things I care about and, you know, what it all means to me, when someone else comes along and is like, this is why people like moe, and I'm like, well, I'm standing right here liking moe, not feeling any of those things. So explain me. You know, if I had to deconstruct really at the heart of this Mary Sue article, what mindset about it bothers me that I see in lots and lots of media analysis from every different, like, angle, it's this idea that media is always meant to relate to you. You know, the end of the article, the author is saying that, you know, she says, like, as a woman, I don't relate to characters who act this way because it's unrealistic and it doesn't really match the way I've seen any, you know, real women acting. And, like, that's fine, but the goal of art is not always to relate to everyone. It's to provide certain things to whomever will appreciate those certain things. You know, Moe is not necessarily made for women to relate to it. And even then, lots of women can relate to it. You know, maybe that person can't, but I know plenty of women who love Moe. I know plenty of women who are, you know, into even like fan service anime and shit like that. And I don't think most men can relate to most male anime characters in that kind of straightforward way either. Anime characters in general don't act realistic. They act in very over-dramatized, over-the-top ways. You'll never meet a real person who acts like a shonen action hero because they are like the most blindingly straightforward archetypes possible. Every shonen action hero is like this absurdly energetic go-getter who's like, you know, well, not every single one, you know, some of them are like the cool badass guys who are also just a totally out there, you know, thing. But like, if you were looking at like the main character from Haikyuu or Gon from Hunter x Hunter or like Naruto, these like balls of boundless energy, Goku, who just want to go and do things. It's like no one acts that way. No one acts like Luffy from One Piece. You know, they're like way larger than life, glamorized characters. I don't even know if they're glamorized. Like, they're not even something that you necessarily want to be. What they are is easy to empathize with. Because they have such straightforward and clear personalities, you can immediately get into their heads and figure out what they're all about, and that makes it easy to root for them and to follow them on their journey. And when you want to create a certain feeling with your story that is not necessarily like trying to feel like real life, then it's a lot, you know, easier to have characters that you can easily understand and empathize with to guide you through that story. I don't think you could have like a relaxing slice of life show where every character is completely realistic, because real life is not generally relaxing most of the time. There's tons of stress, there's tons of work, there's tons of drama. Most of the shows that have realistic characters are dramas, because when you take out drama, when you take out those like high stakes situations, then, you know, it just wouldn't reflect real life. So if a moe show that's meant to be soothing and meant to help you relax has characters who are soothing and not that complicated, it's probably because that's what the tone of the show is meant to be. You know, it's not speaking to like, this is what we all wish women were like or something. It's like, this is just the kind of show we want to watch to relax, you know? If you're someone who mostly is into moe shows because of the fact that they help you to like cope with the world around you by chilling out, you know, it's not because you're trying to escape your world. It's because you maybe don't want constant reminders of your world. You know, watching stressful shows, like if I have a hard time watching shows like The Wire, for instance. I think The Wire is probably the best written show ever made. It's incredibly realistic. All the characters act like real people. There's tons of drama. It's ruthless. And it's so hard to watch because it constantly makes you think about all the worst things happening in the world around you. I don't think it's escapism to want a show to not constantly remind you of what you already understand to be a bullshit, terrible world, you know? Now, that's not to say that you can't write an uplifting show with realistic characters. I think something like Shirobako is a show that excellently portrays the stress that comes from, you know, everyday life and working and being in the anime industry while also being overall happy and uplifting. And some people would even describe it as moe because the girls are cute, even though in that show all the girls act totally realistically. So, you know, that just throws the whole question of what the hell does moe even mean into question. But a show like New Game, which, you know, my friend Mother's Basement, Jeff Thu, got into this whole fucking tirade about how it doesn't represent, like, the stress of the game industry. Well, the guy who wrote New Game worked in the game industry, and he deliberately wrote it to not reflect the stress of the game industry because he wanted a way to, like, relax and make it fun for him again, essentially. You know, like, anime's not always about reflecting reality and being relatable. And I think that goes for, you know, every type of anime. If you want to see lots of guy characters who don't represent reality, go read shonen manga, where they all have superpowers and fight each other in giant battles and are totally not like you at all. You know, it's just what am I looking for? Now, maybe there should be more shows where girls are out there kicking ass and saving the world. If you want that, you've got Pretty Cure and plenty of other shows of its ilk, lots of magical girl shows, but you know, sure, there could be more, like, shonen protagonist-driven shows that are like that. Or maybe there could be more shows about cute boys doing cute things. There's actually kind of a boom of them right now. If you actually look for them, they're all over the place. The most recognizable one of recent years being Free, obviously. But, like, it's really a matter of who's the market. I mean, you know, a lot of older guys want to watch shows about cute girls. Not because we all wish that all girls acted like moe girls, but because, oh, Jesus Christ, my shit is falling all over. But because we want to not think about the stress of what just happened to us at work today, you know? I don't want to think about, like, whatever, I lost $10, fell down the drain, I just want to chill, let's put on some fucking Hidamari sketch or something and relax, you know? I feel like everyone wants, people who write articles like this, it's like they want everything to be a political statement or to say something about humanity that like, you know, oh, the fact that there's shows about cute girls means obviously there's something in guys' minds that wants all girls to be infantilized or something. And it's like, no, I wouldn't want that out of an actual girlfriend. I would in no way ever want to in real life date a moe girl, you know, because they're not even close to real people. They're two-dimensional characters. They're just there to be cute on a poster, and you look at it and you go, man, the artist who drew that, really great artwork. Wow, what a cool character. I love thinking about them. I could fantasize about what it would be like to live in that world, to be in anime. This fucking camera keeps falling. I'm just gonna start carrying it around as I finish this speech. But you know, it's different. And everyone I've ever known who was big into moe, a lot of them maybe don't even, you know, a lot of them couldn't explain this. A lot of them probably couldn't explain themselves. A lot of them might corroborate what other people, outsiders, say about them because they don't really have the language to describe it themselves. And that's why I feel like we need people like me who are capable of expressing things in a journalistic way and who are into this stuff, you know? We need some gonzo journalists who can explain this shit to the outside world so that we don't constantly have people, you know, interpreting us how they want to and essentially throwing shade on our interests while we can't really defend ourselves because, you know, we don't really have the words to. We don't necessarily know how to describe this stuff. But it's funny to me because I've known so many guys who were like big moe fans who thought for a long time like maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not interested in 3D women or something. And then they get a girlfriend at some point who's nothing like any anime character they've ever liked and they totally fall in love with her and they still like moe. I could literally name like 5 people I know who've gone through that exact experience. You know, it's just a thing where because it's so talked about, everyone has like this like idea of it that's like super like formed, like something that was constructed, like they picked out a data point and then they had everything point to that. I guess it's a confirmation bias, you know, like they looked at it and they said, it seems weird that there's this cute girl phenomenon. How can I connect this to being bad for you somehow, you know? But when you peel it all back and look at like the basics, why would people want to watch a moe show? The answers are actually pretty easy. It's relaxing, it's fun, it's cute, it makes you feel good. It doesn't really reflect reality in any meaningful way. It's more in your head. It's more cerebral. It's more, you know, something that's personal. And I think everyone has their own relationship with moe, and it means something, you know, slightly different to every person. I don't think you can just generalize and say, like, this is what it is, this is why people like it, you know. Obviously, the fact, even the fact that there are women who like moe is enough to, like, discredit the idea that, like, women can't relate to moe, or that they can't be into it, or that it's only for guys, or that it's about some weird thing where guys are trying to infantilize women. Like, if there's any guys who are into moe and don't feel that way, and there's any women who can relate to it or who are interested in it, then you've already completely debunked that as the idea behind the entire construct. So that's why I'm bothered by outsider articles that just take an extremely broad lens and then to a huge topic, and then they just throw a dart at a board, essentially, of like the different stances they could take and just present that one without doing the research or getting involved or talking to a multitude of people who are into it, you know? Once you know a lot of people who like Moe and you've consumed a lot of the culture and you understand the stuff you're talking about, you know, that article has a fucking picture from Ama to Inazuma in it, which is like not even a Moe anime by any stretch. So I really can't take it too seriously as someone who actually understands what they're talking about and didn't just go on Google and type Moe girl and throw the first few images they found into an article. So yeah, Gonzo all the way.